Now, law and order and whether we should arm our police officers or not is one of those debates that goes on and on and on. And we've historically in this country done our very best not to arm our police officers too much. But times have changed. And of course, tasers are quite commonly used. About 30,000 times a year, tasers are used by police officers in this country. Well, now there's a proposal coming from the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. And the idea is that our specials, will be able to use tasers, provided they've had the right degree of training. Now, Amnesty International and others are screaming blue murder, saying this is all wrong. Others are saying we can't trust the police as far as we can throw them. I have to say, for my part, if I was giving up my free time to go and help police and perhaps be called in to deal with street protests, riots, in I have to say, a country with an increasing level of street violence, I think I'd want a taser. I certainly do. Now, joining me is Chris Phillips, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office and Managing Director of the International Protect and Prepare Security Office. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
It's always difficult, isn't it? You know, when I go to America, I see police officers with guns everywhere and a lot of killings that take place every year, and it leads to all sorts of disputes. And we've generally not wanted to overarm our police officers, I think. I mean, would that be a right description of the British attitude towards policing?
Yeah, quite right. And I think actually most police officers wouldn't want to be armed. Arming police officers just brings more guns into society, and that's not a good thing. But there's got to be some way of dealing with the very violent situations that officers are now finding themselves in particular in the inner cities. Now, in my day, I could pretty much rely on people to support me in the police. Now, unfortunately, the people are actually setting on the police in groups, and that's a really difficult position for officers to be in.
We saw a situation over the weekend in Dalston, in East London, where a group of police officers were going to arrest some people who were in the country illegally, with the aim of getting them deported. And yet the public on the streets, or political activists, or whoever they were, physically turned against the police officers. So, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying. Now, it is true, of course, that with these 30,000, every year, 30,000 times a taser is used, there were 16 people that died. Now, it is also true to say they all had pre-existing conditions. But do you understand the concerns of what are seen as volunteer police officers having tasers?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the difficulty is we're asking these volunteers, normal members of the public, to go out onto the streets to act as normal police officers. You know, at a time actually when policing has become much more difficult, much more complicated than ever before, and they're having to deal with very difficult situations. Now, if we're expecting them to do that, then you should give them the tools to do the job. And I think what Priti Patel has done here is actually say to chief constables, if you think your people are able to deal with this and have the tasers, then they should.
So it's the 43 individual police forces that will make this decision, and to perhaps reassure our viewers and listeners, these volunteers will have to reach a certain level of competence, won't they?
Yeah, they will, and they will have had to have a certain amount of training, obviously, the same training as the officers, standard officers, but also they will be expected to have done a certain amount of policing. I think my biggest concern on this is that we do have a situation where policing is getting more complicated. Special constables, whatever, and we love them to bits, but actually they cannot do and get the amount of experience. It takes a long, long time to do that. So we've got to be a little bit careful about treating them as normal officers, but they also have to be protected, and I think this is a good move.
Why is the level of public trust in police falling the way that it is?
I think policing has been politicised. I think policing back from Theresa May's day and David Cameron absolutely messed up with bringing in PCCs, police crime commissioners. They've actually politicised the police, and actually then it does look as though one side is against the other, whichever side you're on. And of course all the different things that we've had split in society as well, at a time when people just don't respect authority anymore.
So it's
And I
not
think
just the police?
It's not just the police, is it? I mean, we know that the ambulance drivers are getting assaulted, fire brigade are getting assaulted. We've got teachers that seem to be unable to teach certain children because they are just so unruly. And I think, it does come down to our society and what we've allowed ourselves to be. And actually, we should be supporting the police as much as we can to do the job that's becoming more and more difficult.
Well, Chris Phillips, I can assure you, I certainly am doing that. And on that point of societal breakdown, of course,